Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES horizon and stared at the dead planet below. The screen showed what used to be New Terra, a human colony world that housed 50,000 people. Now it was just ash and smoke. "Sir, we're getting no response from the surface," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Harper. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the worry underneath. "All communication channels are silent." Dr. Richard Stone looked up from his science station. His face was pale. "Captain, the readings I'm getting don't make sense. The entire surface shows signs of recent burning, massive burning." Amy Rodriguez, their communications officer, turned around in her chair. "Sir, I'm picking up a distress beacon. It's automated and very weak, coming from the main settlement." Jake felt his stomach drop. He had been to New Terra 3 times before. It was a peaceful farming world where families went to start new lives. Children played in the streets while their parents worked the fields. The air smelled like fresh bread and growing crops. "Take us down," Jake ordered, "but keep the shields up and weapons ready." The ship descended through the thick smoke that covered the planet. As they broke through the clouds, the crew saw hell. The main city was gone. In its place were black ruins and twisted metal. Nothing moved. Nothing lived. Lisa Harper gasped. Her sister Kate had moved to New Terra 5 years ago with her husband and 2 children. Lisa had planned to visit them next month. "Landing party," Jake said. His voice was hard now. "Full protective gear. Stone, I want you to scan everything. Harper, you're with me. Rodriguez, monitor all frequencies." They put on their environmental suits and stepped outside. The air was thick with ash. The smell of death hit them even through their filters. Jake had seen war zones before, but this was different. This was not a battle. This was murder. They walked through what used to be the main street. Houses were burned down to their foundations. Cars were melted lumps of metal. In the town square, they found the first bodies. "God in heaven," Stone whispered. Hundreds of people lay in neat rows. Men, women, children, even babies. They had been shot and then burned. Someone had taken time to arrange them like this. Lisa ran toward the school building. "Kate! Kate, are you here?" Jake followed her. The school was partially standing, but the windows were blown out. Inside, they found more bodies. Teachers and students had been herded into the gymnasium. The doors had been welded shut from the outside. Everyone inside had burned alive. Lisa fell to her knees next to a woman's body. Even burned, Jake could see the family resemblance. "That's her," Lisa said. "That's my sister." Stone was scanning the bodies with his equipment. "Captain, these people didn't die from the fire. They were shot first, then burned. But some of them were alive when they burned." "Who did this?" Amy asked over the radio from the ship. Stone checked his readings again. "The weapon signatures are not human. These are alien energy weapons, very powerful ones. They spent 6 hours searching the ruins. Every building had been destroyed, every person was dead. The attackers had been thorough. They found the colony's data center buried under rubble. Stone managed to recover some files. "Captain, you need to see this," Stone said. They gathered around his portable screen. Security camera footage showed the attack. Tall, gray-skinned aliens with 4 arms moved through the streets. They wore black armor and carried weapons that shot blue energy beams. They moved like soldiers, not raiders. "Zephyrians," Jake said. He recognized them from the alien database. "They're part of some empire in the Outer Rim." The footage showed the aliens herding people into groups. They separated the children from their parents. The children were forced to watch as their families were shot. Then the aliens shot the children too. "They took their time," Lisa said. Her voice was dead now. "They enjoyed this." Stone found more footage. It showed the aliens setting up recording equipment. They were filming their work. In one clip, a tall Zephyrian with golden markings on his armor spoke into a camera. "We cannot understand their language," Stone said, "but I can read their expressions. He looks proud." Jake watched the alien commander point at burning buildings and laugh. The creature was enjoying the screams. They found one more thing in the data files. A message that had been sent just before the colony's communications went down. A colonist named Ben Carter had managed to send one last transmission. They came without warning, Ben's voice said through static. No demands, no negotiations. They just started killing. They're burning everything. They're burning the children, alive. Tell Earth. Tell Earth they need to know. These aren't raiders. This is genocide. They're doing this because we're human. The message cut off with the sound of energy weapons and screaming. Jake ordered his crew back to the ship. As they lifted off, he looked down at the dead world one more time. 50,000 people had lived here yesterday. Today there was nothing but ash and corpses. Set course for Earth, Jake said. Maximum speed. Sir, Amy said. Should I send a message ahead? Jake thought about the footage they had recovered. He thought about the alien commander's proud smile as children burned. He thought about Ben Carter's last words. Yes, Jake said. Send a priority 1 message to Earth Command. Tell them we found new Terra. Tell them what happened here. And Amy, sir, add a personal note from me. Tell them the aliens wanted to show us what monsters look like. Tell them they're about to learn what real monsters look like when someone kills our children. Lisa Harper stood at the window watching. New Terra disappear behind them. Her sister's family was down there somewhere in the ash. She had promised to visit them. She had promised to meet her nephew for the first time. Now she would never get that chance. Captain, she said quietly. Yes? When we go back, I want to be there. I want to be there when we make them pay. Jake looked at his crew. They were good people. Peaceful people who had signed up to explore space and meet new friends among the stars. The aliens had changed that. The aliens had turned them into something else. We all will be, Jake said. Every last one of us will be there when we show them what humans do to things that hurt our families. The UES horizon jumped to faster than light speed, carrying news of genocide back to Earth. Behind them, new Terra burned in the darkness of space, 50,000 voices crying out for justice that would soon come. President Helen Carter sat in the Situation Room deep under the White House. The walls were lined with screens showing star maps and military positions. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth. General Paul Harrison commanded the ground forces. Admiral Susan Blake controlled the space fleet. Dr. Elena Martinez knew more about alien species than anyone alive. Show me the footage again, President Carter said. The main screen lit up with the security recordings from New Terra. Everyone in the room had seen it before, but they watched again in silence. The Zephyrian commander pointing at burning buildings, children being separated from their parents, the systematic execution of 50,000 innocent people. How long have we known about the Zephyrians? Carter asked. Dr. Martinez pulled up her files. First contact was 8 years ago. They control a large empire in the Outer Rim. 17 star systems, population of about 40 billion. They're extremely militaristic and view other species as inferior. Have they done this before? Yes, Madam President. Our intelligence suggests they've wiped out at least 17 other species completely. They call it purification. They believe that killing other intelligent life forms makes the galaxy cleaner and more pure. Admiral Blake leaned forward. We need to respond immediately. Every hour we wait, they might hit another colony. General Harrison shook his head. We need to be smart about this. The Zephyrian military is larger than ours. A direct assault would be suicide. So we do nothing? Blake asked. Her voice was getting louder. We let them murder our people? I didn't say that, Harrison replied. I said we need to be smart. President Carter raised her hand for silence. What about the Galactic Council? Can they help us? Dr. Martinez looked uncomfortable. I spoke with Ambassador Creeth this morning. The Council is deeply concerned about the situation. They're prepared to impose economic sanctions on the Zephyrian Empire. Economic sanctions, Admiral Blake said with disgust. 50,000 people are dead and they want to stop trade deals. The Council has strict rules about military intervention, Martinez continued. They believe in diplomatic solutions to all conflicts. President Carter stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of Washington, D.C. 12 billion humans lived on Earth. Millions more lived in colonies across the galaxy. All of them were counting on the people in this room to keep them safe. What do we know about Zephyrian? Military capabilities, she asked. General Harrison activated his display. They have a large fleet, but their technology is about equal to ours. Maybe slightly behind in some areas. Their ground forces are well trained, but they rely heavily on intimidation tactics. What about their weaknesses? Dr. Martinez brought up biological data. They have several vulnerabilities. Their inner ears are extremely sensitive to certain sound frequencies. They can't handle rapid changes in gravity. And their nervous systems are susceptible to specific types of electromagnetic interference. Admiral Blake was studying the star charts. Their empire is spread out over a large area. Most of their fleet is positioned to defend their core worlds. Their outer colonies are lightly defended. President Carter turned back to the table. How long would it take to mobilize our full military? 6 months for a complete mobilization, Harrison said. But we could have a significant force ready in 8 weeks. Too long, Carter said. By then they might hit Earth itself. At that moment, Amy Rodriguez's voice came over the speakers. She was still aboard the UES Horizon, which had just arrived in Earth orbit. Madam President, we've recovered additional data from New Terra. The Zephyrians left behind a recording device. We think it was intentional. Put it through. The screen changed to show the Zephyrian commander who had led the attack. He spoke in his own language, but the computer provided a translation. I am Commander Vextal of the Zephyrian Purification Fleet, the alien said. We have cleansed this world of human contamination. The screams of their young were particularly satisfying. We leave this message for other humans to find. Your species will be next. Your homeworld will burn just as beautifully as this colony did. We know where Earth is, and we are coming. The recording ended with the sound of the commander laughing. The room was completely silent for a long moment. How many ships does Commander Vextal have? Carter asked. Intelligence suggests about 30 vessels, Admiral Blake said. Enough to destroy any of our colonies, but not enough to threaten Earth directly. Unless he's just the advance force, Harrison added. Dr. Martinez was reading through more intelligence reports. Madam President, I'm seeing communications intercepts that suggest the Zephyrians are planning something big. They're calling it the final purification. It appears to be aimed at humanity specifically. President Carter sat back down. She thought about the children of New Terra. She thought about her own grandchildren who lived in the Mars colonies. She thought about the Galactic Council and their economic sanctions. Get me Ambassador Creeth on the line, she said. The main screen showed the alien diplomat. Creeth was an Altarian, one of the peaceful species that had founded the Galactic Council. He had 6 limbs and blue skin, and his large eyes showed genuine concern. Madam President, Creeth said, please accept our deepest sympathies for the tragedy at New Terra. The Council is prepared to take immediate action. What kind of action? Carter asked. We will impose a complete trade embargo on the Zephyrian Empire. We will freeze their assets in council banks. We will expel their ambassadors from all council worlds. Admiral Blake couldn't stay quiet. Ambassador, they murdered 50,000 innocent people. They're planning to do it again. And you want to freeze their bank accounts? Admiral Blake, I understand your anger, Creeth said. But the Council has maintained peace in this galaxy for over 1,000 years through diplomatic means. Violence only leads to more violence. Tell that to the children of New Terra, Blake shot back. President Carter leaned forward. Ambassador, what would it take for the Council to authorize military action against the Zephyrians? Creeth looked uncomfortable. The Council would need evidence of an imminent threat to multiple species, and even then military action would require a unanimous vote from all member species. How long would that take? Several months at minimum. Carter stood up again. Ambassador, I'm going to make this very simple. You have 72 hours to deliver the Zephyrians responsible for New Terra to Earth for trial. If you don't, Earth will withdraw from all galactic treaties and handle this matter ourselves. Creeth's eyes went wide. Madam President, you cannot be serious. Earth withdrawing from the Council would destabilize the entire galaxy. The galaxy is already destabilized, Carter replied. You just haven't noticed yet because it's not your children being burned alive. I must advise against this course of action, Kreith said. If Earth acts unilaterally, you will be seen as aggressors. Other species will unite against you. Admiral Blake laughed coldly. Let them try. Carter cut the connection. She turned to her military commanders. General Harrison, begin immediate mobilization of all ground forces. Admiral Blake, I want every warship we have ready for deployment within 6 weeks. Dr. Martinez, I want you to develop weapons specifically designed to fight Zephyrians. Madam President, Dr. Martinez said carefully, are you authorizing the development of biological weapons? Carter looked at the frozen image of Commander Vextall on the screen. She thought about his proud smile as he talked about the screams of human children. Doctor, I'm authorizing you to develop whatever it takes to make sure this never happens again. I don't care what rules we have to break. I don't care what lines we have to cross. Those aliens wanted to teach us about monsters. Now they're going to learn what monsters really look like. General Harrison cleared his throat. Madam President, if we do this, there's no going back. Once we cross this line, we become something different, something the galaxy has never seen before. Carter walked back to the window. In the distance, she could see the lights of the space elevator that connected Earth to the orbital shipyards. Soon those shipyards would be building ships of war instead of exploration. General, they crossed the line when they started murdering our children. We're not becoming monsters. We're becoming what monsters have nightmares about. She turned back to the room. Gentlemen, ladies, for 200 years we've played by their rules. We've been the peaceful species they wanted us to be. We've turned the other cheek and tried to solve everything with words. They mistook our kindness for weakness. That ends today. Admiral Blake was already pulling up fleet deployment plans. Madam President, what should we call this operation? Carter looked one more time at the image of Commander Vextall. Call it Operation Reckoning because that's exactly what it is. The shipyards above Earth had never seen anything like this before. For decades they had built exploration vessels and cargo ships. Now they built machines of war. Admiral Susan Blake stood on the observation deck of Space Station Alpha and watched humanity prepare for battle. How many ships will we have ready? She asked Captain Randy Foster, her fleet coordinator. Foster checked his tablet. 47 warships, Admiral, all equipped with the new weapon systems Dr. Martinez developed, plus support vessels and troop transports. Blake nodded. Below them, the massive shipyard stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Thousands of workers moved like ants, building humanity's answer to genocide. The ships had names that reflected their purpose: vengeance, retribution, New Terra's wrath, children's justice. What about the new weapons? Dr. Martinez wants to brief you personally, Foster said. They took a shuttle to Research Station Beta, where Earth's brightest minds worked day and night to create tools of destruction. Dr. Elena Martinez met them at the airlock. She looked tired but determined. Admiral, we've made significant progress, Martinez said as she led them through the facility. The Zephyrians have several biological weaknesses we can exploit. She stopped at a testing chamber, where a holographic Zephyrian stood motionless. First, the sonic weapons, Martinez said. She activated a device that produced no sound humans could hear. The holographic alien writhed in apparent agony. Zephyrians have extremely sensitive inner ears. This frequency causes their organs to liquefy from the inside. Blake watched the simulation with grim satisfaction. How effective is it? 100% fatal within 30 seconds. The beauty is that it causes extreme pain before death. They'll know they're dying. Foster looked uncomfortable. Doctor, isn't that considered torture? Martinez turned to him with cold eyes. Captain, did you see the footage from New Terra? Did you hear the children screaming as they burned alive? This is justice, not torture. She led them to the next station. The gravity weapons are even more interesting. A new hologram showed a Zephyrian being slowly crushed by invisible force. The process took several minutes. We can create localized gravity fields that gradually increase pressure, Martinez explained. The target experiences every bone breaking slowly. They remain conscious throughout the entire process. Admiral Blake felt a chill run down her spine. Not from horror, but from anticipation. What about their ships? We've developed viral programs that can infect their computer systems, Martinez said. Once installed, the virus slowly shuts down life support systems. The crew suffocates over a period of hours while watching their shipmates die first. They moved to the biological weapons section. Here, Martinez's team had created horrors that would have been unthinkable before New Terra. This is our masterpiece, Martinez said, holding up a small vial. It's based on the bioweapon the Zephyrians used on our colonists, but we've improved it. How so? Blake asked. Their version killed in days, ours takes weeks. The victim experiences every symptom in slow motion: pain, organ failure, madness. But they stay conscious until the very end. Foster was looking pale. Doctor, how can we justify using weapons like this? Martinez set down the vial and looked at him seriously. Captain, let me ask you something. If someone broke into your home and tortured your children to death, would you want them to have a quick, painless execution? That's different, Foster said. No, it's not, Blake interrupted. They came to our home. They tortured our children. The only difference is the scale. Martinez nodded. These weapons serve two purposes, Admiral. First, they eliminate the Zephyrian threat permanently. Second, they send a message to every other species in the galaxy. This is what happens when you murder human children. They moved to the final station, where Dr. Kevin Walsh was working on ship modifications. Admiral Blake, Walsh said, we've redesigned our fleet for maximum psychological impact. He showed her holographic displays of the new warships. They were painted black with red markings. The hull designs were deliberately frightening, with sharp angles and predatory lines. The ships broadcast specific frequencies that cause fear in most alien species, Walsh explained. We've also added external speakers that can project sounds across space. When we attack, the enemy will hear the screams of New Terra's children before they die. Excellent, Blake said. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, General Paul Harrison was overseeing the training of the ground forces. The soldiers preparing for this mission were all volunteers. Most had lost family or friends at New Terra or other colonies. Colonel Beth Murphy commanded the Marine assault units. She stood before 1,000 soldiers in the main training facility. You all know why we're here, Murphy said. The aliens think they can murder our families and face no consequences. They're wrong. The soldiers were practicing with the new weapons. Unlike the space-based systems, the ground weapons were designed for close combat. They wanted to look the enemy in the eye when they died. Remember, Murphy continued, we're not just fighting for revenge. We're fighting to make sure this never happens again. Every alien species in the galaxy is watching. They need to understand that attacking humanity means extinction. Back in space, Admiral Jake Morrison had been promoted to fleet commander. He stood on the bridge of the flagship UES Reckoning, studying the battle plans. His old crew from the Horizon was with him, including Lisa Harper, who was now his second in command. Any word from the Galactic Council? Morrison asked. They're still calling for diplomatic solutions, Harper replied. Ambassador Creeth sent another message asking us to reconsider. Morrison laughed bitterly. Diplomatic solutions? They had 72 hours to deliver the Zephyrians for justice. Time's up. Tony Garcia, the new tactical officer, looked up from his station. Sir, we're receiving reports that several alien species are mobilizing their fleets. They might try to stop us. Let them try, Morrison said. Admiral Blake's defensive fleet is ready for them. Dr. Richard Stone, now the fleet's science officer, was monitoring alien communications. Sir, the Zephyrians know we're coming. Commander Vexictal has sent messages to his empire calling for reinforcements. Good, Morrison said. I want him to know we're coming. I want him to have time to be afraid. The final preparations took 6 weeks. During that time, President Carter received hundreds of messages from alien governments begging Earth to reconsider. The Galactic Council offered concessions, trade deals, even technology transfers. Carter ignored them all. On the day before launch, she addressed the fleet via video link. Soldiers, sailors, Marines, she said. Tomorrow you carry out the most important mission in human history. You're not just avenging New Terra. You're ensuring that no human child will ever again die screaming in the dark while aliens laugh. She paused, looking directly into the camera. The galaxy has rules about warfare. They have conventions about acceptable weapons and tactics. They've built their civilization on the idea that some things are too horrible to do, even to your enemies. Another pause. They forfeited the protection of those rules when they burned our children alive. You have my authorization to use any weapon, any tactic, any method necessary to complete this mission. Show them no mercy, because they showed our families none. Admiral Morrison looked around the bridge of the UES Reckoning. His crew was ready. The entire fleet was ready. 47 ships carrying the concentrated fury of 12 billion humans. All ships report ready, sir, Harper said. Morrison thought about the security footage from New Terra. He thought about Commander Vextal's proud smile. He thought about the children who died screaming for parents who couldn't save them. Signal. The fleet, Morrison said. All ships jump in formation, target the Zephyrian Empire. The space around Earth lit up with jump flashes as 47 warships disappeared into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, they left a changed galaxy. Humanity had shed its peaceful nature like an old skin. What emerged was something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that would haunt the nightmares of every species that had ever considered genocide. The hunt was beginning. The human fleet appeared at the edge of the Kethmore system like ghosts materializing from nightmares. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Reckoning and watched the tactical display show 47 ships in perfect formation. Below them was Kethmore, the primary military training world of the Zephyrian Empire. Sir, we're being hailed by the Planetary Defense Force, reported Tony Garcia. Put them through, Morrison said. The main screen showed a Zephyrian officer with silver markings on his armor. He spoke in the typical arrogant tone of his species. Human vessels, you are in violation of Zephyrian space. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences. Morrison smiled coldly. I am Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. I'm here to deliver a message from the people of New Terra. The Zephyrian looked confused. New Terra? That human colony that was cleansed? What does that have to do with anything? Everything, Morrison said. You wanted to teach us about monsters. Class is now in session. He cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. Begin the demonstration. The first target was the Orbital Military Academy, where young Zephyrians trained to become soldiers. Morrison had chosen it specifically. These were the future killers, the ones who would grow up to murder human children if allowed to live. Fire gravity torpedoes, Morrison ordered. The weapons hit the space station and began their work. The gravity field slowly increased, crushing the structure centimeter by centimeter. The hull groaned and buckled as the field grew stronger. Inside, Morrison knew, the young Zephyrians were experiencing the same slow death they had given to human families. Sir, we're receiving distress calls from the station, Garcia reported. Broadcast them on all frequencies, Morrison said. I want every Zephyrian in the system to hear what their future soldiers sound like when they die. The screams filled the communication channels, young voices crying for help that would never come. Morrison felt no pity. He remembered the security footage from New Terra, where Zephyrian soldiers had separated human children from their parents before executing both groups. Second target, the planetary defense platforms, Morrison said. The human ships spread out and began systematically destroying every military installation in the system. But they didn't use quick, clean weapons. Every target was given the slow treatment. Gravity weapons that took minutes to kill. Sonic weapons that liquefied organs over 30 seconds. Viral programs that shut down life support systems one deck at a time. The Zephyrian defense fleet arrived 3 hours later. 15 heavy cruisers and 30 escort vessels. Their commander, Admiral Zekthor, demanded to speak with Morrison. Human, Zekthor said when the connection was established. Your actions here are war crimes. You are violating every galactic convention about warfare. Morrison laughed. Admiral, Your people violated the only convention that matters to us. You don't hurt our children. Since you forgot that lesson, we're here to remind you. We demand you cease this attack immediately, Zekthor said. I have a counteroffer, Morrison replied. I have something that belongs to you. The screen changed to show the interior of one of Morrison's ships. Commander Vextal, the architect of New Terra's destruction, was strapped to a table. He was conscious but clearly in pain. We captured him at his base on Cathara 2 days ago, Morrison explained. I've been saving him for you. Zekthor's eyes widened. If you harm him, we will make your species extinct. You mean like you were already planning to do? Morrison asked. I found his plans, Admiral. The final purification. You were going to kill every human in the galaxy. Morrison gestured to someone off-screen. A human soldier appeared and injected something into Vextal's arm. That's the same bioweapon he used on New Terra, Morrison said. But we improved it. Instead of killing in days, it takes weeks. He'll experience every symptom in slow motion. Pain, organ failure, madness. But he'll stay conscious until the very end. Vextal began screaming as the weapon took effect. His body started convulsing as his nervous system began to shut down. You monster, Zekthor whispered. No, Morrison said. I'm just a student. Your commander taught me everything I know about being a monster. Watch carefully, Admiral. This is what happens to anyone who hurts human children. The broadcast continued for an hour, showing Vextal's slow agony in graphic detail. Morrison made sure every Zephyrian ship in the system could see it. He wanted them to understand what they were facing. When Vextal finally died, Morrison turned back to the camera. Admiral Zekthor, I'm going to give you one chance to surrender. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that resists will be given the same treatment we gave your orbital stations. Never, Zekthor snarled. We are warriors. We do not surrender to inferior species. Then you die, Morrison said simply. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The humans didn't just want to win. They wanted to send a message. Every Zephyrian ship was disabled rather than destroyed. Then the crews were subjected to the new weapons. Some ships had their life support slowly shut down, leaving the crews to suffocate over hours while listening to their shipmates die. Others were hit with sonic weapons that liquefied their organs from the inside. A few were treated to gravity fields that slowly crushed them to death. Morrison broadcast every death across all frequencies. He wanted the entire Zephyrian Empire to hear what defeat sounded like. Colonel Beth Murphy led the ground assault on Kethmore itself. Her Marines landed in drop pods that looked like black meteors falling from the sky. They hit the planet's military, bases with precision and overwhelming force. The ground fighting was even more brutal than the space battle. Murphy's soldiers had trained specifically for close combat with Zephyrians. They wanted to look them in the eye when they died. Remember New Terra, Murphy told her troops as they advanced on the main military complex. Remember the children. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, every Zephyrian military installation on the planet was destroyed. Every soldier was dead. But Murphy's forces had taken prisoners, high-ranking officers who would serve as examples. They set up a broadcast station in the ruined capital city. Murphy stood before the camera with a group of captured Zephyrian generals behind her. My name is Colonel Beth Murphy of the Earth Defense Forces, she said. These are some of your military leaders. They're going to help me send a message to the rest of your empire. She nodded to her soldiers who began injecting the prisoners with the slow-acting bioweapon. The Zephyrians started screaming as their bodies began to break down. This is what happens when you murder human families, Murphy said calmly as the aliens writhed behind her. This is what happens when you make the mistake of thinking we're weak because we're peaceful. The broadcast continued for days as the bioweapon slowly killed the prisoners. Every Zephyrian world received the transmission. Every alien species in the galaxy intercepted it. Meanwhile, Admiral Susan Blake was dealing with the peacekeeping fleet that the Galactic Council had sent to stop the human assault. 12 species had contributed ships to force humanity to cease hostilities. Blake met them at the edge of the Altair system with 30 human warships. "This is Admiral Blake of the Earth Defense Fleet," she announced. "You have entered a military exclusion zone. Withdraw immediately." Ambassador Creeth's voice came over the radio. "Admiral Blake, the Galactic Council demands that you cease this aggression immediately. We cannot allow you to continue these atrocities." "Atrocities?" Blake laughed. "Where was the Council when the Zephyrians were committing genocide? Where? Were you when human children were being burned alive?" "This is different," Creeth replied. "You've become the aggressors." "No," Blake said. "We've become the solution." The Council fleet was larger than Blake's force, but they were used to fighting by the rules. They expected warning shots and negotiation periods. They expected mercy for disabled ships and protection for civilians. Blake gave them none of that. Ships opened fire without further warning. The Council vessels were destroyed in less than an hour. No survivors. No prisoners. No mercy. Blake broadcast a message to every Council world. "This is Admiral Susan Blake. Earth is withdrawing from all galactic treaties effective immediately. Any species that interferes with our operations against the Zephyrians will be considered hostile. Any species that harbors Zephyrian refugees will be considered hostile. Any species that provides aid to our enemies will be considered hostile." HFY paused for effect. "You wanted to see what humans do when pushed beyond their breaking point. Congratulations. You're looking at it." Back at Kethmore, Admiral Morrison prepared for the next phase of the operation. Intelligence reports showed that the main Zephyrian fleet was mobilizing to defend their homeworld. Exactly what he wanted. "All ships prepare for jump," Morrison ordered. "Target Zephyria Prime." Lisa Harper looked at him with concern. "Sir, that's their homeworld. There are billions of civilians there." Morrison thought about the children of New Terra. He thought about the final purification plans they had found. He thought about Commander Vexital's proud smile as he boasted about the screams of human families. "Commander Harper, they forfeited the right to call themselves civilians when they cheered for genocide. Every Zephyrian who celebrated New Terra's destruction is a legitimate target." The fleet jumped toward the Zephyrian homeworld. Behind them, Kethmore burned into. The Zephyrian homeworld burned beneath a sky filled with human warships. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Reckoning and watched the capital city collapse into ruins. 3 months. That's all it had taken to bring down an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. "Sir, the last military stronghold has fallen," reported Lisa Harper. "Colonel Murphy is requesting permission to begin the final phase." Morrison nodded. "Granted, tell her to make it memorable." On the planet's surface, Colonel Beth Murphy stood in the ruins of the Zephyrian government complex. Around her, the surviving leaders of the Empire knelt in chains. These were the beings who had ordered the genocide of 17 species. Who had planned to wipe out humanity itself. "Begin the broadcast," Murphy ordered. The signal went out across the galaxy. Every inhabited world, every space station, every ship would receive this transmission. Murphy wanted everyone to see what happened to genocidal monsters. "I am Colonel Beth Murphy of the Earth Defense Forces," she said into the camera. 3 months ago, the Zephyrian Empire murdered 50,000 human colonists on New Terra. They burned our children alive and laughed about it. They plan to do the same to all of humanity. She gestured to the kneeling Zephyrians. These are their leaders, the ones who gave the orders, the ones who celebrated genocide. Today, their empire dies with them. Murphy's soldiers began the executions, but these weren't quick deaths. Each Zephyrian leader was given the same treatment their species had used on human families. The bioweapon that caused weeks of agony, the sonic weapons that liquefied organs, the gravity fields that slowly crushed bone and flesh. "Let this be a lesson to every species in the galaxy," Murphy continued as the aliens screamed behind her. "This is what happens when you touch our children. This is what happens when you mistake our kindness for weakness." The executions took hours. Murphy made sure every moment was broadcast. She wanted the galaxy to understand that humanity had fundamentally changed. The peaceful explorers were gone. In their place stood something far more dangerous. Meanwhile, in orbit, Admiral Morrison was receiving reports from across the former Zephyrian Empire. Every military installation had been destroyed. Every warship had been eliminated. The few surviving civilians had been relocated to refugee camps, where they would live under human supervision for the rest of their lives. "Sir," Tony Garcia said, "from the tactical station, we're receiving a transmission from Ambassador Creeth. He's requesting permission to speak with you." Morrison almost refused. He had no interest in the Galactic Council's diplomacy, but he decided to hear what the alien had to say. Creeth appeared on the screen. The usually composed diplomat looked shaken. His blue skin had a pale tint, and his large eyes showed genuine fear. "Admiral Morrison," Creeth said, "the Council is prepared to offer full reparations for New Terra. We can provide technology, resources, even new colonies for human settlement." Morrison laughed coldly. "Ambassador, you think this is about money? About territory?" "Then what do you want?" Creeth asked desperately. "We want to make sure this never happens again," Morrison replied. "We want every species in the galaxy to understand that genocide has consequences." "But the Zephyrians are gone," Creeth said. "You've accomplished your goal." "Have we?" Morrison asked. "Tell me, Ambassador, how many other species in the galaxy have committed genocide? How many others have wiped out entire civilizations?" Creeth was silent for a long moment. Morrison could see the alien calculating, trying to figure out how to answer without admitting the truth. "I thought so," Morrison said. "This isn't just about the Zephyrians. This is about all of you. You've built a galaxy where genocide is acceptable as long as you call it something else, where 50,000 dead humans gets you economic sanctions, but interfering with the killers gets you a war fleet." "Admiral, please," Creeth begged. "The Council is willing to reform. We can change the laws, strengthen protections for endangered species." "Too late," Morrison said. "We're done trusting you to police yourselves." He cut the transmission and turned to his communications officer. "Patch me through to Earth. I need to speak with President Carter." President Helen Carter appeared on the screen. Behind her, Morrison could see the lights of Washington, D.C. It was night on Earth, but Carter looked wide awake. She had been following the operation closely. "Admiral," she said, "I've been watching the broadcasts. How complete was the victory?" "Total, Madam President," Morrison replied. "The Zephyrian Empire no longer exists. Every military asset has been destroyed. The survivors are in custody. Casualties on our side? Minimal. We lost 3 ships to their defensive systems, but most of their fleet surrendered when they saw what happened to the ones that fought back." Carter nodded approvingly. "What about the galactic response?" "Mixed," Morrison said. "Some species are calling us monsters. Others are quietly asking for protection from their own neighbors. The Council is in chaos. Half the member species are demanding action against us. The other half are afraid we'll target them next." "Good," Carter said. "Fear is a better deterrent than law." Morrison agreed. "Madam President, I recommend we establish permanent monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. Any species that shows signs of genocidal behavior gets a visit from our fleet." "Approved," Carter said immediately. "Dr. Martinez has developed early warning systems that can detect the planning stages of genocide. We'll know about these operations before they begin." "What about the Galactic Council?" Carter's expression hardened. "The Council had their chance. To prevent this, they chose diplomacy over justice. From now on, humanity sets the rules." 3 weeks later, President Carter stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Representatives from every human nation listened as she outlined humanity's new role in the galaxy. "For 2 centuries we have been members of the galactic community," she said. "We followed their laws, respected their customs, and trusted their justice system. That trust has been broken." She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red zones marked areas under human protection. "Today, I announce the creation of the Terran Protection Zone. Any species threatened by genocide can request human protection. In exchange, they accept our military presence and our authority in matters of interspecies violence." A reporter raised her hand. "Madam President, critics are saying that humanity has become the very thing we fought against. that we're imposing our will on other species through force. Carter looked directly at the camera. We are not imposing our will. We are imposing basic morality. The right of children to grow up without being burned alive by alien monsters. The right of peaceful species to exist without being wiped out for the crime of being different. She paused for effect. If that makes us monsters in the eyes of the galaxy, then so be it. But remember this. We are only monsters to those who prey on the innocent. 6 months after the fall of the Zephyrian Empire, Ambassador Kreeth requested a private meeting with Admiral Morrison. They met aboard the UES Reckoning, which was now permanently stationed at the former Zephyrian homeworld. Admiral, Kreeth said, I must express the Council's concern about humanity's recent actions. 7 species have requested to join the Terran Protection Zone in the past month alone. Morrison poured himself coffee and gestured for the alien to sit. And that concerns you because? You're destabilizing the existing galactic order, Kreeth said. Species that have maintained the peace for centuries are abandoning the Council system. Maybe they're abandoning a system that doesn't work, Morrison suggested. Tell me, Ambassador, in the 1,000 years of Council rule, how many species have been completely wiped out by genocide? Kreeth looked uncomfortable. The exact number is classified, but 43, Morrison said. We found the records in the Zephyrian archives. 43 entire civilizations exterminated while the Council debated and negotiated. The Council prevented many more. Kreeth protested. Did you? Morrison asked. Or did you just ignore the ones that weren't politically important enough to save? Kreeth had no answer for that. Morrison stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the ruins of the Zephyrian capital. In the distance, construction crews were building monuments to the victims of genocide. Not just humans, but all 43 species that had been wiped out over the centuries. Ambassador, let me explain something to you, Morrison said. Humanity didn't want this responsibility. We would have been happy to stay in our little corner of the galaxy, exploring and trading and making friends, but you forced this on us. How? Did we force anything? Kreeth asked. Morrison turned back to him. By allowing genocide to happen, by treating the murder of children as a diplomatic problem instead of a crime against existence itself, by building a system where mass murder gets you economic sanctions and stopping mass murder gets you labeled as an aggressor. He sat back down and looked directly into Kreeth's large eyes. So now you get to live with the consequences. Humanity has taken responsibility for protecting the innocent because nobody else would. We've become the monsters that monsters fear, because somebody has to be. And if other species resist, if they band together against you? Morrison smiled coldly. Then they'll discover what the Zephyrians Leah.